Thank you very much, Chris. It was indeed a very insightful presentation. And to deepen the conversation, we have a retail track, which we are joined by a great panel lineup of industry-leading retail and FMCG subject matter experts and practitioners. In each one of them is a specialist in their respective roles on retail transformation. We have Meng, who is currently the marketing director for Abbott Nutrition Malaysia, with more than 18 years of experience in local and regional markets. Successfully driven transformation for brands such as Garnier, Twisties, Pepsi, Mountain Dew, and more. Everything that I love when I have a day off to myself. A natural data specialist, James Yeang, is the Group Senior Vice President for Digital and Customer Relationship Management of Domino's Pizza in Malaysia, Singapore, and Cambodia. Also one of my favorites. Our third guest panelist is an international retail veteran, having worked over 30 years in some of the world's leading food retailers. Geoff is the CEO of the Food Purveyor, supermarket operator of Village Grocer and Ben's Independent Grocer. And Geoff is also a non-executive director of Russia's largest food retailer, X5 Retail Group. That's interesting. That's actually where I do my shopping as well. And moderating this panel is Stephane Sanchez, who is dialing in all the way from Singapore. Stephane is Ipsos's channel performance lead of regional customer experience and global lead of the CX advisory. This is an incredible lineup of retail powerhouses that we have here. But I just wanted to remind all the audience, I know that the discussion is really interesting, but please remember to send in all of your questions in the comment section below as in the beginning or in the middle. Do not wait until the end because we want to make sure that our panelists have time to address your questions. All right, the panel is getting ready, so please stay tuned. We will be back in just a short while.
Hi everyone. So we are going to start, I would say, with a pretty broad question, and I will ask it to James, if you don't mind. So 2020 has been a transformational year, I would say, for most of the business. And we have seen basically that there is evolution that have happened, and retail is not excluded from this environment. So how do you feel that your business has evolved in the last year from a customer experience perspective?
It's a good question. So I feel that it has evolved very much so by the fact that people are more concerned about other things we weren't appreciative of last time. For example, safety is a big element now, and we try to keep all our delivery and our carry-out, takeaway, and put on a lot of safety elements into it. So I'll give you a quick example. So many people order Domino's, and what they normally used to is some guy showing up at your gate and then handing the pizza over to you. Right now, we also give the option for contactless delivery, and we just put the pizza on the motorbike, and then you step away, and then people pick it. So small little things like this help the delivery aspect as well, and to actually make sure that people understand that it's safe. Because people don't know what to expect, right? Especially when the pandemic first comes. And people are saying that, I don't know whether you can get it through coughing, through sneezing, through just touching something. So best we make sure that we are taking all these precautions. I mean, also for takeaway, right now, if you go to the store, you don't even need to go into the store to take your pizza. You can just press a button on the app, and somebody will come to you and deliver the pizza to you in the car. The idea again is they want to just make sure that you don't get into the store and then be afraid. So there's nothing to be afraid of. There's nothing to be concerned about. Just keep on ordering the same way we've been ordering, and we will make sure that we adapt to the safety aspect. So I think that's the biggest changes that we see.
Okay, thanks, James. Geoff, what about you?
Yeah, I think I echo a lot of what James said. I think we all want to deliver best customer service to our customers, and quite quickly that became hygiene and safety. And we hadn't really addressed those or looked at those aspects seriously in our shop. So when the first pandemic wave hit, we aimed to be number one in hygiene and safety. We disciplined our staff and made it essential to wear masks, gloves. We were the first retailer in Malaysia to install perspex screens over checkouts, and simple things. We hired one person per store just to wipe the handlebar of a trolley as it was given to a customer. And I think the aggregate of all these things made our customers realize, showed our customers that we were serious about hygiene, we were serious about safety, and that drew them to us.
Thanks, Geoff. About you, Meng?
Hi. Well, because our consumer experience are very reliant on our partners, which are the retailers. Gone are the traditional ways in which we can have like huge setup, impactful displays in which we could encourage better intimacies for the consumers to try our products and flirt with them. So with the pandemic and the entire contactless safety, hygiene being in priorities, aside from all the other rising priorities of the brand needed to demonstrate sustainability, authentication, and transparency, we needed to change our ecosystem in terms of the way that we engage the consumers. So hence the big buzz of digital accelerations and the adoptions of the different digital tools to make sure that we still deliver the message and we're still allowed to flirt with the consumers, to tell them like, this is what our brand stands for and this is why we are relevant to you. And having said on the part of relevant, content has changed because their needs, it's for sure heightened, but the need for health has become like top concerns. So the way that they identify the brand, whether to stay or to convert, has a significant change due to the environment, the current conditions that we are in. So there was a huge change in terms of how we deliver the content, the messaging that we crafted to the consumers. On the other hand, partnering with the retailers to actually provide home deliveries of our products so that we can deliver to their homes without having them stepping out, almost like going to the battlefield with the pandemic. That has also shifted the way that we try to provide a more seamless consumer experience.
Great. Thanks for those insights. And I will just continue on a topic you mentioned, Meng, which is basically digital acceleration.
Sure.
And basically, this pandemic, the least we can say, has really impacted the way that basically companies have managed or they have basically pushed digitalization within their company. How this has been managed within your organization, and especially how do you engage basically consumer in terms of experience online versus maybe what they used to have offline? Meng, if you want to carry on.
With me?
Yeah.
The very obvious digital accelerations was obviously on all the more consumer activations, like the way that we used to actually reach out to consumers are very traditional. Like and just to cite a few, I would have removed everything that it's of like billboard and offline and started moving investments into like different touch points of digital. And the format of digital started changing because obviously everyone's on digital, everyone's on mobile. And they are bombarded, consumers are bombarded with like messages and it's almost nearing to spam. So it's really about innovating the way and keeping it really, really simple to the consumers in how we use the tool of digital, right? Even down to engaging, because we are from a nutrition company and we engage traditionally face-to-face with the doctors. To drive recommendations or to talk to the doctors about our products. That has changed. I mean, you can't go to the hospitals and you can't send your sales team to the hospitals without fearing for their life. So so the digital adoptions of the buzzword on webinars, I'm sure that you've attended and hosted a few, becomes very common to us. But we always innovate. How can we make it better? How can we make it like a more real life experience? Essentially is really about bringing an offline experience and how could you visualize it, albeit it's compromised, to the consumers. But what I wanted to highlight, digital accelerations on consumer activations, it's very predictable. It's something everyone is doing. But what I think it's really accelerated within the organizations in the past that have never really considered digital as part of their life, the likes of HR. How do you engage the working from home bunch of 300 over staff and keep them motivated? The likes of demand and supply, how do we actually leverage on digital or digital platform in order for us to do better forecasting, because the channel shift, it's so drastic right now. So I would say accelerations more towards other part of the organizations are more 360 than it is on the marketing activations.
Thanks, Meng. That was really helpful. How about you, Geoff?
Yeah, Before the pandemic hit, I would say we weren't spending much time and attention on digital. Our focus was in our shops, our products, making sure the product freshness was there, and delivering our customer service every day. But with the pandemic, it really forced us to look wider and differently at some of our operations. So e-commerce sprouted up everywhere. Everyone was going online to deliver this, that, and the other to everyone. So we had to rush our plans. We had made plans to go online. We had to accelerate those. We had an 8-month plan to go live back in January. We actually launched in 2 months. So that was the speed of reaction to the need to do something very quick. So we went online, and it's fantastic. If you're trading online, there's so much to learn, so much new to how to reach the customers, how to market, how to make your products look attractive, how to build your customer base, get retention, and all of that stuff. So we've been spending a lot of time and thinking in that space. And I think the other area where we had to look differently was the way we marketed our business overall. And we did have Instagram accounts and Facebook accounts. We were pumping out content, but we reflected on that and we realized we were just blasting out, and that wasn't good enough in these times. So we had to interact. We had to we had to seek engagement and do things. And it really made us look at what we were doing in store to realize what was the real value of that. Does it really require us to dress it up and spend on leaflets and posters and all that stuff that we were doing? And maybe digital marketing is a much more cost effective and a different way, and a complementary and interesting way of reaching out to people. So we've spent a lot of time in the last 6 to 7 months playing in that space and learning and growing in that.
Thanks, Geoff. Very impressed with the pace your organization I've been able to manage that. James, I know your company is pretty much mature in terms of digital, but what has changed during this period? Maybe you have innovated or you have pushed some new content. Can you share with us?
Sure. I mean, a lot has to do with what I just described earlier, whereby we were taking traditional methods of doing it, but then giving it a spin to actually make a better delivery, a better takeaway. I think a lot of effort was spent to make sure that it wasn't a big departure away from what people were already used to, simply because it was just too difficult for anyone to actually learn a whole new way of buying pizzas. So we just needed to make sure that we were, number one, able to make it as seamless as possible, and number two, we're able to measure everything. Because once we start measuring things, we're able to see that what was working, what was not, make the quick changes, and then work from there.
Great. Thanks. And I will jump on something that was again developed by Meng and by Geoff. So if we look at the current context, right, and I mean the anxiety that is present within the society, like you said, right, I mean going to a shop, for example, is something that as a shopper you tend to think twice before you want actually to step into a shop. But then from your side, if you look at some of the operational changes that maybe the current pandemic has pushed you to put in place faster, could you tell us how you have managed those operational changes, and maybe how you have actually experimented and test and learn some of the new things that you have pushed during this pandemic? Geoff, I think you mentioned a few, but can you tell us?
Yeah, I can expand a little bit more. So obviously home shopping, home shopping gets you into whole omni-channel mindset thinking. We have shops, we have an online portal, we now partner with other people and house our shops in their website. So it's becoming a very interesting ecosystem of how you market your brand and reach out to same customers, but also reach out to different customers. We now partner with Lazada and Shopee and now can distribute across Malaysia, whereas before we were Klang Valley centric and just do that. So these are new markets that open up to us and enable us to reach new people. But during the first COVID wave, where everyone was locked indoors and bored, we did a lot of stuff on social media. Tried games and gamification and prizes, and we noticed people switching into shopping and baking and home cooking, and really these drove tremendous demands in areas that were very, very quiet in our store. beforehand. So, our baking fixture was getting raided every single day, and taught us we had to respond to that and somehow cope with that demand. And sometimes that product takes 3 months to import from another country. So how do you do that when that country is also facing its own challenges, and the flights are affected, and the ships and the docks are being affected as well? So tremendous challenges. And, we were addressing customer fears of, is this shop going to be open? Is this product going to be there? Is food still going to be there in a few months' time? So different customer fears along the way we had to address and allay. So it's been a very, very interesting past year, I guess.
Indeed, it was. I was one of the ones that actually picked up cooking during this period. Meng, do you want to share some from Abbott nutrition perspective, what you guys have been doing in that space?
Very similar to what Geoff was talking about. So obviously there's a channel shift to e-commerce, and that has changed in terms of prioritizations. I think big problem and challenges that we meet is really product availabilities at the right stores. So aside from e-commerce, proximity stores has also benefited in the current situation. So how do we prioritize all the relevant products and the key hero products to actually the e-commerce and also proximity stores? How do we actually rework our resources to make sure that we actually give the right content and the right supports to the right channels? Not only that, we also expanded. We tried different channels, like what Geoff did, like TV home shopping. So we started working with like the big vendors and said that, we've never explored this. We'd like you to actually do this. So it's very much like almost like an omni-channels shopping. Anything that actually deliver contactless shopping to the consumers. And obviously, and of course, we've also put in we actually gotten new agency, new talents in to drive just to capture all the recipes. So we developed loads of recipes. We've actually developed like home exercise tips. That is all very relevant to the nutrition platform. So I think the big task is while social listening gave us an ideas on like what exactly is the most talked about or interest of the consumers, how do we actually talk about that and yet drive relevance to the product? I think that's the big challenges, especially amongst the activation team. But otherwise, on a channel perspective, really product availability is a huge challenge. Getting permissions to actually deliver products to like the different proximity stores, managing the logistic was a huge challenge. Otherwise, content, test and try, I wouldn't say it's a challenge, it's a great fun to the team, but was really about not doing something for the sake of it, but really doing something that means something.
Thanks a lot. James, what about Domino's Pizza and how you have potentially changed some of the operation to adapt to the current environment?
Operations, I would say that internally there was a lot of operation changes. I think I'm grateful for the fact that Microsoft Teams was actually rolled out quite fast and quite seamlessly in my organization. I think a lot of us didn't know what to expect, and all of us were just hoping for the best. We have these virtual meetings. How will it look once you don't get to the same room? But then I think I'm quite happy and quite delighted to see the organization adapted quite well. Instantly, we were moving from a situation where we weren't particularly super digital when it comes to all platforms, and everything was being adopted. So you have like the shared documents, you have shared spreadsheets, shared everything. And then the idea here is that with this, by looking internally, we're able to react faster. I think the main thing is for us to be able to react faster, because I talked about measuring things earlier, but if we weren't able to get together quickly in a very coherent manner, we weren't able to adapt and to meet the needs of our customers. That's what I'm most proud of for Domino's.
Great, thanks for sharing that. So I will jump again on something that Meng shared. She actually almost aligned with some of the questions I wanted to ask you. So one of the things that we realized during this period, but I would say in general, is that you need to get things right across your what we call path to purchase, right? And it's very important, especially in a situation like that, to potentially get very quickly capturing feedback from your customer to really be able to adapt to the evolution of needs or expectation that they may have towards your brand. How have you guys been managing specifically the collection of this feedback and acting on it within your organization I may start with you, Geoff, if you don't mind.
Okay, yeah, no, it's a really good point. We always prided ourselves in customer service and listening to customers. So that was always on a one-to-one basis. We had no formal, really, any way of communicating and drawing in that feedback and doing something with it. So last year, we started aggregating store received feedback and looking at that in the center. But during this year, I think what's happened, we noticed that our Instagram or Facebook particularly, people were voicing out very, very strongly. And certainly when the fears were at their highest, is this store safe? What happened? I read in the newspaper this was going on. Or, I saw post a picture. Here's one of your staff not wearing gloves. Is this typical across all stores? And, you're not safe. So that it was like crisis response, actually, that you can't allow those sorts of things to persist unaddressed and flourish. So we had to respond fast. It really taught us that diligence in the SOPs around safety, around food handling were essential to maintain brand integrity. And we couldn't put any more effort and pressure on our stores to deliver on a day-to-day basis. And it also taught us to be transparent. So when there was a risk in any location, any mall that we were in had a case, we found it best just to declare that and say, yeah, that happened. This is what we've been informed. And by the way, we're going to be cleaning our store thoroughly today. We've sent all these people for checking, testing, and this is what we're doing. And we got so much appreciation, I think, just for being open and transparent and not trying to cover things up. So I think, and that guided us all through this pandemic situation. Just transparency and honesty, I think, will win the day with your customers.
Thanks, Geoff. James, I think you probably were in a similar situation as Geoff in terms of basically potentially people sharing with you feedback. How do you manage that at Domino's Pizza?
One of the advantages of having a large online channel is that we're able to collect feedback fairly quickly. So whenever somebody buys pizza, we send them a survey, NPS survey, and we actually measure that daily. So I think Domino's takes it very seriously in the fact that I think a lot of organizations measure NPS, but I've seen it measured yearly, quarterly, monthly, and things like that. But the fact that we actually measure it daily, we're able to really see what the real problems are, zoom in on them, and then we read some developer team feedback. For example, they will give some comments and things like that, and understand why. So it's quite nice because we're able to quantify it. And then you read the comments, not just on the NPS, but also on Facebook, and then qualify it. So why are people not liking this part of the app or this part of the website per se? Then you just read whatever people are writing, and then you just do it. So, but without quantifying it with the NPS, the biggest problem is that it's a lot of noise. People will complain because the people will complain. And I don't want it to be the loudest guy wins. It should be, if people are having a lot of that problem, we zoom in on that and find out why more than anything else. That's what I would say.
Thanks a lot. Meng, what about Abbott? What have you guys been doing?
Well, managing customer complaints has always been part and parcel because it's nutrition. So we obviously get very passionate consumers over the products. So it's really stepping up in terms of our care line systems. But most important was really, I think back to your questions on how do we measure the pulse. We've actually intensified our social listening. In terms of the way that we report and potentially changing the ecosystem to more real time and included into like the area that people actually complain the most, if you don't realize, is in your marketplace where they write the ratings and then sometimes they complain about the products and not all social listening actually monitor, and then we kind of push the lever and expanded that so that we have actually dedicated agents that helps to with proper scripted on how to answer and how to direct the consumers to where to know more. Because nutrition it's a very serious business when it comes to nutrition, especially when you are marketing to pediatric and adult more aging. So it was very critical for us to I think in an uncertain times navigate the consumers, giving them the right answers and navigating them where to know more, rather than trying to go online and search on their own of what's happening, why this product's giving this. I think that's that. One thing that I find extremely useful as we started changing our plans and our tools is really listening to our field staff those that is actually still in the field, those that talks to the retailers, or those our promoter advisors, our product advisors, we do actually a lot of check-ins with them and ask them what's going on, what are the complaints, is there anything, and they give a lot of good feedback in which we try to sharpen and help them to address the complaints.
Yeah, and you raise a great point here. Is how do you actually also take into account basically your frontline feedback, right, and integrate that in potential improvement you can make. Geoff, is that something that you I presume that's something you also do on an ongoing basis? How you have been managing that during this crisis, because it's even more important for you to react pretty quickly?
Yeah, I mean, we had a digitalization question earlier. Our process is not digitalized at all. Well, I guess some of it is, but basically there is an SOP. If you have a customer complaint, you record it, document it, and send it into HQ. We aggregate it up and look at it on a regular basis. We have a WhatsApp group. I think that's digital. We can claim that, and that's a great way of, if we do have a customer complaint, it's handled within, I think our SOP is 7 hours. That customer is reached out to, the issue is addressed, and rectification we aim to fix within that 12-hour window. So, and that works really well. Simple thing like WhatsApp. And if a customer can't find a product, it's amazing watching the stores, network to say, I've got one, I've got 3 or whatever, and we'll ship it around to make sure that customer's satisfied. So simple ways, but effective ways that I think more digitalization will only make better in the future.
I agree.
WhatsApp is legit. It is a legit tool.
It is.
Good. Thank you.
Like I was saying, simplicity is good in a complex world. James, I know you were mentioning that you guys are capturing on a daily, daily basis, feedback from your customer. How do you actually manage, I would say, with your frontline, like I was asking Geoff and Meng, and how do you actually what we call close the loop with your customers? How do you operationalize that at Domino's?
So when you say close the loop, do you mean reaching back to the customer, or do you mean actually?
Yes, correct. Correct. How do you manage basically the interaction or the feedback that you get from, for example, from your staff, and how do you actually manage getting back to the customer and making sure basically that there's a proper resolution being put in place? Okay.
So in most cases, the pizza journey it's not an ongoing relationship, so to speak. It's I've ordered the pizza, I've eaten pizza, and that's it. So what I want to be able to do is make sure that their last interaction with us is not really negative. So if we find out that we see the sentiment is very poor, we find out what's going wrong, and then what we do sometimes is we make sure that we reach out to them and say, hey, you know what? We know we did something wrong. We'll give you a free pizza. We'll do something else for you. The idea here is that we want to be able to at least understand what was going on. Sometimes people complain for the sake of being complaining. Sometimes it's like the pizza 20 minutes late instead of 90 minutes. Okay, I mean 20 minutes instead of 20 minutes to the delivery, but fine. People will complain all they want. But sometimes it really, really is something that we can do something about it. It's something that we want to do something about it. And whatever feedback, even though it's the people who are complaining that it didn't come in 19 minutes, we still want to listen to them because that's what they want and that's what they expect. I mean, the reality of life is with Domino's, right? In very, very few other places would you expect, I order something online, I want it to come in half an hour. No, if you get same day, you'll be jumping for joy already in most cases, okay? But Domino's has established some sort of standard that needs to be half an hour. And you cannot blame customers for having an increased level of expectations already. So if it's half an hour, why isn't it coming in 29 minutes? Why is it coming in 25 minutes? Why is it coming in 20 minutes? So that need for immediate gratification is, I would say, not a very good thing when it comes to this. But then it's life. This is what has been expected, and customers will continue to expect better and better service, and we continue to strive to get better and better at delivering them. I think one of the most important things is that when we set up all these new changes and all this, contactless delivery and things like that, one of the key problems was that we weren't sure how people would react to it. And I'll say this much: before MCO happened, we were getting an NPS of plus 55, more than plus 55, which is very high, by the way. Plus 0 is neutral, and plus 55 is really high. So what we were thinking about is like, okay, if we do all these things and this bit of extra steps here and there, would people be appreciative or not? And I think one of the things we were very happy to see is that the NPS actually increased. So it went up to even more than 65%. And then we were so delighted, and because of the fact that we listened to the customers, we took the trouble to add these extra steps, and people, although they were extra steps, weren't turned off by them. In fact, they were appreciating them even more. That's what I would say.
Great. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for sharing so much details. I will use something that actually Geoff mentioned about gamification and some of the things that you have been doing. So there's one thing that I guess you all have noticed during this pandemic is that when we are at home and as shoppers, we get bored. So we go online and we are expecting basically what we call retail-tainment. I can't go to an actual physical space where, I will have my shopping fun. So I have to do that online. How have you been managing that to try to make basically shopping online, or at least interacting with your brand fun and potentially, making them want to come back again through your digital channels? Geoff, I know you mentioned a bit about that. Would you want to expand a bit on what you have been doing in details?
Can do. Yeah. So I think back in April and May, my marketing team had really nothing to do. Easter was cancelled. The next program, even Raya campaign that we spend normally, 3 or 4 months preparing. Really, just keep the eggs in stock, please. That's all we want. So they really had nothing to do. So I split them into 2 teams, and I said, well, you go for BIG and market that online, and the other half go into Village Grocer and market that one. Here's some marketing money to do things and see what you can do. And very, very interesting to change their mindset from the task that they used to do to something free thinking and just go out and make some noise. And the idea was to create splashes and resonate. And it's not easy. And I remember our first competition had so many T's and C's and hurdles and things because we wanted to do it properly. Nobody entered, So weekly debrief meetings. I said, don't do this. Just make it easy, And so the next one was just take a photo and post it and something. And then we got accused of being racist when we gave the judging and the prizes. So I was like, oh my God, this is so complicated and so tough in life. We're only trying to create some fun here. And now because it says prizes, there's competition, and people are not liking this. So it's really interesting learning. But the other thing I think, aside from retail entertainment, what we did was actually reach out to people in a more humane way. So we also had some spare time and did some CSR work. We were fortunate to be able to do that and interact with customers on what we were doing. And I think being cooped up at home, feeling a little bit helpless, knowing there's other people out there that are worse off than you, we tapped into something that was quite strong and got a lot of positive feedback from helping nurses, helping doctors, helping needy homes that couldn't properly be fed and stuff. So that really woke up our internal CSR program, and we've continued that since. So I know that's a slight different to your question, but it's interesting how adversity can spring forth new opportunities and new learnings.
No, it is. It's very inspiring actually to see how retailers have reacted very fast actually to go and help the society. I think that's something that we should keep alive when things turn a bit better. Meng, you want to share about what you have been doing to try to entertain, I would say, consumers?
Well, so just to give some examples, so like what Geoff, so all our promotions ideas that we planned late last year was out of the window. So we started to put principles like we still need to have promotions. Let's do something that can be virtual, something that I can send to their home, and something that they can participate. So it's more like a very engaging. So we created like workshops, like for example for mothers and child, because there's a lot of like moms and parents stuck at home with a few kids not knowing what to do. So we created like workshops, drawing workshops where the mom and kids can actually participate. And not only that, we actually jumped onto one of our partners. One of our promotions was really to get the child to submit their characters and we bring it alive. So it becomes the first movie that was created by the kids. Literally, the characters was all created by the colleagues, and we had a very private screening amongst the mothers and those who are RSVP. That was really great fun because then we leveraged those UCG, which is user generated content, UGC, and then we started entertaining them on our Facebook communities, which is quite big, and started asking them, should this be a villain, or should this be a villain, or should this be the hero? So those are quite entertaining, I would say, meaning that I think the formats are not going to be different, the way that we want them to submit, but the content, it's what matters, and how they participate becomes very important. The other things we do is we also partner with like TV stations to create, we developed this called Ensure Fitness for 2 weeks. It's like a short capsules every morning that you can tune in to tell them how to you actually use stuff at home, water bottles and pans and pots and all your towels to actually keep yourself fit at home. So we did that. And loads of social content, like tips, recipes, and stuff you can do at home, like simple stuff that you can do at home to entertain your kids and keep your sanities. So those are really the stuff that we did, and we explored a lot.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for sharing that. You have been very busy, as I can see.
My team, I felt like working from home is working longer hours than we had.
Tell me about it. James, what about Domino's Pizza? I'm sure you have generated a lot of new stuff in the last few months.
Sure. So aside from those things which I talked about earlier, I mean, we have done a lot of CSR as well. Make sure that frontliners especially are taking care of. I mean, food is everybody's favorite thing. The pizza is everybody's favorite, easy to eat, large groups of people and things like that. So it is up to us to make sure that's also going to be brought to the front lines and making sure that people are able to benefit from that as well. So in terms of other types of digital engagements per se, I think I would argue that it isn't dramatically different from whatever we did previously, simply because we were pretty much digital already to begin with before the pandemic started. But nevertheless, we never slowed down, and we continue to make sure that those elements are in there. So I give you a good example. Our Instagram posts and our Facebook posts, if you're not an Instagram follower of Domino's, please try it out now. But the idea here is that there's a lot of really, really cool stuff going up there. I have to give my marketing team and my agencies really, really good credit, because a lot of the work they do is very engaging, and we have been able to catch even the trends that are happening all over the world, and make it relevant even in a time like this, and to just give some humor and delight to people as well. But again, the main focus is always going to be on the product, and making sure that we are able to not only talk about being safe, but actually do things in our product to actually be safe. I think that's the core of it, and we emphasize on that, and then that's what we do.
Great, thanks a lot. So we are receiving a lot of questions. So I'm going to fire a few, so be ready. Some are pretty tough, I have to say. But I will start with one that I guess everyone is trying to answer now. So I hope you have a crystal ball in front of you, and we try. So in your view, what will be the consumer expectation moving forward? I mean, hopefully when this pandemic will have slowed down, and what are your plans basically beyond, I would say beyond 2021? So like we discussed, right, you have put in place all those changes. How you see your business evolving beyond that? So I know it's a bit of a tough one, but let's give it a try. Geoff, do you want to share some of your thoughts around that?
Still evolving those thoughts. Still a few days to go of 2020 to think about 2021. No, I think we're famous for quality food, the greatest freshness, the widest range, and those things won't change. I think that's the brand, the core of the brand. But what we recognise, customers want more healthy eating choices. So and diets are evolving and getting more and more complex. So we're aiming to broaden our ranges out to serve those needs. I think ease of shopping. People don't want a long shop anymore, and so therefore they want to know where things are. They want to be able to navigate the shopping experience and get in and out much quicker, and not rub shoulders with people ongoing. So that's something we're considering, and making our shopping experience cheaper and simpler. And I think that goes on online as well. It's how to make that shopping experience swift and efficient, and iron out those creases that snag customers along the way and get them frustrated. And I think that evolves into recommendation engines and favourite baskets and what did you order before. all of those things we need to add on and make our omni-channel operations as good as our in-store channels.
Great, thanks a lot. James, do you want to share your thoughts for Domino's?
So I would say continue measuring and continue tweaking, because as I said, majority of things we've already put in place, thank God. But then what we want to be able to do is keep on getting better. I've said NPS is something that we track, and I'll continue to use that as a benchmark and to see how we go get better and better. One of the things that I like is that the operations team in the organization is very, very strong. And even though, as you might imagine, that there's a record amount of deliveries being asked for Domino's, the delivery timing has never been better. So that's why I'm very proud of them, because I originally anticipated as how are you going to cope with this kind of demand? Isn't the delivery times going to go up like crazy? But actually, they have optimized themselves to make sure that it's very, very tight. So to keep the eye on the ball is probably one of the most important things, I would say, and to not lose track of your core promises to consumers. I think that's the most important thing, because otherwise you'll be very distracted about doing this, doing that. But if you're not fulfilling the core things that people want you for, that's going to be a problem. So we have just focused on that, and it should be okay.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Meng?
I agree with a lot of what James have mentioned. So I assume that the consumers will continue to want more safe products, safety, convenience, speed, because everything is now virtual, becomes one of the more heightened needs to a lot of the consumers. But most important is that we always deliver the products to address those needs without losing the core needs of authenticity, driving a brand that's sustainable and genuine, actually. And most important for nutrition is really deliver products that works and really relevant. And we'll continue to offer products that it's more relevant as it comes, whether it's for the different stages of life.
Great, thanks a lot. So I have a few questions actually, which are pertaining to a topic we discussed briefly, which is how do you actually work with your partners to ensure that basically the experience that you want to deliver is actually being delivered by, I would say, a third party. And so in some cases, for example, we heard from you guys, you're working with platform, with some delivery companies. So how do you manage that from your, how your company manage that and ensure that basically this entire end-to-end chain is actually under control as much as I guess you can do it. I will maybe start with you, Meng, again, just to share your view.
Sure. So partners' perspective, I'll stay within the comfort of marketing, which is like really understand the strength of your different partners, like from your agencies to your partners in media, where the strength is, and really get them and encourage them, inspire them to brainstorm. I think one of the things that really work for us is that be really transparent of where your challenge are. And as a manufacturers, we tend to get a lot of data from different point, and we tend to know things a little bit more robust. But what we don't know can definitely you get some information from your partner. So start sharing. I would say, and I would encourage really share with your partners, in which you'd be surprised that with them they come up with ideas that really help you to sharpen and address this. And sometimes I get really like moments of light bulbs when I share something and the partner is like, oh, I've done this with my one of my clients before, and I think you can change it this way, and it becomes really interesting. So make more use of the other brains, I would say. And control perspective, obviously we have resources, we've got legal, we've got all the contracts signed and down to every T's. But there's a lot of trust. So there's a lot of trust with our partners in which we sign retainer with, which are partners. But critically, sometimes I see it's some of your challenges would be not being able to leverage your partner's strength. And that's only because they don't know half the challenges that you are facing in your organization. So it's good to share.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, I've been in the position of being challenged by my client a lot, which is good.
No problems.
James, do you want to share about you and Domino's?
Sure. I think I echo what it said about the transparency aspect. It's very, very important to get those clear goals so that everybody understands where they are going and especially what they're actually aiming for. A lot of these things will change when the pandemic hits. Sales numbers, targets will change. Operational targets will change. And if you don't change, it's going to be very unfair to a lot of people because otherwise this is going to be very awkward. So we are very clear about what we can do very well also, which is like delivery, and that's why we do it in-house. So even though we order through third parties, like aggregators and things like that, through Grab or Foodpanda, we still deliver the food ourselves because we are clear that we can do this in-house and we can do it very well. But in terms of working with agencies for other aspects like marketing and things like that, as I said, transparency is the clear way to go. Updating each other very, very regularly is a clear way to go, and making sure that we are always on the right track. I think that's what is going to make a difference.
Yeah, I agree with that. Geoff?
Well, there's lots of good advice from the other two speakers, so not so much to add. But I think transparency, I think goal alignment is really important. So if you're goal aligned and you're both working for the same direction, that really helps. I think supplier management or contract management is an art form in itself and shouldn't be time shouldn't be underspent in that area. And I think the other thing I would say is treat your suppliers and your partners well. And I think, if those partners are working with other people, actually, who do you want their brain time to be most focusing on? And it's you. And so therefore, the way you interact, the way you engage, and the way you work together is really important. And I think we spend a lot of time making sure the value set and the personalities of our partners fit ours, and that really helps the relationship.
Great, thanks a lot. So we are reaching the end. So I still have a few questions, but there is one in particular that is close to me, and I would really want to get your feedback on. So if we look at the future, and especially the role of brick and mortar in the future, knowing of everything you guys have been sharing around, digital has taken a bigger place, etc. What do you feel the role of brick and mortar would be in the future, or will it change, or how should it evolve in your view? Geoff, I know that's basically your business, so can you share what?
That would be my fear. Yeah. You've named my fear. So no, I mean, it's interesting. We always thought food and quality food would be the last thing to go online because it's hard. There's a lot of upkeep and nurturing of product to keep it fresh and things. But that's, there's players in the marketplace doing what we do directly. So it is a challenge. It's interesting quick story, when the whole thing locked down and all the malls were closed and you had a pharmacy or a food retailer open, I said to my team, we're like the Louis Vuitton of retail at the moment. There's nothing interesting to see except come and have a look at our vegetables and our range. So we were quite privileged for a while, but we can't rest on those laurels. We've really got to keep innovating. The displays, I think people will still want to go out into the public. They will still want to be stimulated through the eyes. I think working from home does have its benefits, but it also has its limitations in stimulus and outside interaction. So I think that's always going to be there. We've got to make sure that we offer a place that provides entertainment, interest, and an easy shopping, and that will then sway people to also go outdoors rather than just stay at home pressing buttons on the screen.
Great, thanks a lot. So we have about 2 minutes, so I will give you 1 minute each, Meng and James. So Meng, do you want to share quickly? What are your thoughts?
Well, I've mentioned this in one of my previous experience as a panel before. Brick and mortars will not go away. I mean, you are consumers now. You're locked down and everything's on virtual. You're like literally itching to go out and to have the experience. Virtual experience, like it or not, no matter how we innovate, will not replace the intimacy of textures, of touch, of smells. So I truly believe there is a place for both virtual and brick and mortar. Despite it, potentially there are bigger roles for virtual, definitely. But what I would say is how do you actually create an ecosystem in which both complement each other, what we call the O2O, the online and offline business ecosystems. How do you integrate like touching it and buying it online? having going online to book something in which you can go to the retail to test it out first. How do you collect data and encourage different merchandising in terms of your brick and mortar, or change the experience, or identify the SKU that actually works for brick and mortars, and have some exclusive on virtual. So I really do not think that it must be a battle between the two where one needs to go away. I think it's a more of a complementary, and for consumers, it's always great to have more options, especially when COVID goes away, and I know it will.
Thanks a lot. James, we have a few seconds. Do you want to conclude on this topic?
Yeah, sure. Although Domino's is a very, very online organization, I will still say that we have almost 300 stores nationwide, 300 touch points. And I think the role will change from very much a dine-in perspective to, a better way for customers to get the deliveries faster, and a better way to actually get the click and collect thing going on. Because as I said, we sell a lot of pizzas for people who order online, get to our store, and then just get the pizza from there. The idea here is that brick and mortar, as I agree with the other two panelists, are not going to go away. But maybe in Domino's case at least, their roles will have to change slightly to be able to cope with the times.
Thanks a lot, James. And thanks for all our panelists. It was really insightful and very entertaining. So I'm sure that all the people listening and watching you have learned a lot. So thanks again for your time, and see you soon.
Thank you, Stephane.
Thank you.